Thank you for coming.
Pleasure is all mine.
Actually, I heard a really nice anecdote that you said that the way we actually met is really interesting.
I think it must have been 6 or 7 years ago
Yeah.
now when the brand first started out. I was doing a video or photo shoot on Cambridge Road.
Yeah.
And the brand that organized the shoot didn't take into consideration a place for me to change clothes.
Yeah.
So they went around knocking on doors, and coincidentally they knocked on your door, and you kindly opened it, allowed us in on the day, and I ordered a pair of run of Sagans from yourself, and I've followed the brand ever since. I've always been into menswear, but I think my taste has been quite varied.
Where do you think that comes from, like that want to explore?
My dad was a very early influence. He had a very white-collar career, worked in a bank from an early age, and I would sit on his bed and watch him get ready for work every day. And he has a very sort of meticulous approach to getting ready for work. On the flip side as well, my mum happens to be a textile designer.
Good.
So those two sort of influences in terms of attention to detail from my dad and creativity from my mother. I think the Sagan Classics are a beautiful pair of shoes, and they're expertly constructed. They are my favorite shoes, I must say, and I'm not just saying that because you're here. So where did the idea for the Sagan come from?
So I think it was a mix of a few things I saw coming. There was this trend of the Albert slipper kind of dying off, and I was like, okay, what will follow will probably be the Belgian loafer.
The classic Sagans, I would say, have been for me personally like a conversation starter. I've found that everywhere I've worn them to, people would typically ask me the question of where did you get them from? How did your existing customers who were used to the classic Sagan with the way it was constructed, how did they take to the strides, for instance?
Right. It's a little bit different aesthetic. So the customer I had in mind was a bit different because it was more actually of a European taste that I wanted on the stride. It's basically a Sagan that has a rubber sole.
A rubber sole. How did you find that transition in going away from your traditional way of making shoes into something that is slightly edgy and slightly different from what you'd from all the skills you normally employ?
It came with growth, and it also came with hiring. My role kind of changed, and I started being designer. Like instead of being the maker, I started designing. And then the fact that I came from bespoke, nothing that I do can look industrial. So the shoes remained like I wanted them to flow. We had like the pattern of the tread was hand drawn, like a hand drawn the pattern. And then I was like, oh, we need the mark of the maker. These are all these things that you don't usually see on that type of product.
Right.
And that's very much inspired by handcraft. The idea is they still serve the same kind of customer. It's just a completely different use.
Was it a personal evolution in terms of I want to bring down these barriers of the way I look at things, and I want to take a more holistic view of?
Yeah, it's definitely personal. It's a personal evolution. Like the shoes actually follow a little bit also my personal taste, how it is changing.
I think it's a question we get asked often, and I ponder this question a lot, and the fact that I don't actually have any style icons. What I have done was I think I've had my views shaped from a very early age. My trajectory of life is to take different bits from different people that I do admire and incorporate that into my personal style.
Is there for you, for example, a person that made you discover others, and then these others become your inspiration?
I think first for me was music.
Yeah.
I was heavily involved in music as a young child, and influences from someone like Lenny Kravitz had a ripple effect on my personal style as well, because he's one person I've studied over the years, and he's always had the same unique personal style. I think he's in his 50s now or 60s. He's carried that gracefully into that sort of age, and still dresses the same way.
I think he still has the same style, probably has evolved, but it's the same attitude, I'd say.
Exactly. I describe my personal style now as a blend between a relaxed and a classic approach to styling, because I favored sort of Italian tailoring because of that light-heartedness approach to how they wear their clothes. And I favor that over the stiffness or rigidity of what you'd find in British tailoring, which is very almost box-like. And that's not to say I don't have an appreciation of British tailors or British tailoring. It's just that I find that I'm better suited to something that's more relaxed, nonchalant, like you rightly said.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.